Hi guys, welcome back to Seduce Me to the Demon War demo. We are going to be moving on to Erik's route. Yep. A sweet lullaby. One you would hear as you were rocked in your mother's arm as a child. I could not help but adore such melodies with every ounce of my being, smiling whenever one would play for me. It was only fitting that I would enjoy my dreams with the sound of one playing in my head. My slumber was calm and peaceful as a sweet tune echoed in the abyss of my subconscious. I didn't know why, but I relished that tune that night. Strange, really, how a melody could calm any storm running through my heart. My storm was my engagement to Erik, my demon soulmate. Yes, he was my soulmate, my prince. At the same time, he was indeed a demon. I adored him with every ounce of my being, and I was about to be married to him in the weeks ahead. I couldn't have been more nervous and excited about the whole ordeal. Still, the lullaby that floated in my dreams kept me calm and at peace. I wonder if the same music could soothe an actual child. A child's laughter broke me from my peace, causing me to slowly open my eyes and awaken from my slumber. My eyes focused on the ceiling as I tried to figure out what the sound was. Was it part of my dream? It was effective enough to wake me up. I rose from the bed, looking around the room in confusion. Why had I heard a child's laugh, and how did it wake me up? It was strange to say that, at the very least, a child's voice. However, before I could contemplate about it further, a slight dip in the bed to my side made me gasp softly in surprise. I looked to my side to see Erik still sound asleep beside me. He looked so peaceful and happy, like he was absorbed in a joyful dream of his own. I couldn't help but smile at the sight before leaning down and kissing his forehead. He shifted slightly, mumbling my name. I giggled softly. He was too adorable for words. I truly loved him with all of my heart. Trying to get my voice off. I love you. Still, despite wanting to stay in bed a little longer with the man of my dreams, the child's laughter ushered me to slowly creep out of bed and leave the room to find where it had come from. Turning on the lights in the lobby, I looked around the main part of the mansion to find out where the laughter had come from. Wait. Turning on the lights of the lobby, I looked around the main part of the mansion to find out where the laughter had come from. Yeah. I heard the laughter trail off, as if the voice itself was moving and guiding me to where it wanted me to go. I maintained pursuit, not wanting to lose track of it. Any normal person would have been creeped out. I, however, was brave enough to figure out what was going on by myself. Come on. I was led to my grandfather's office. It was his place of work as well as his sanctuary for his magic study. I knew that he studied magic and had come to accept it during my time with Erik and his brothers. Still, it was something that I was curious about. The lights were on, but the laughter seemed to have faded away as I entered the room. Was I not in the right place? As I stepped further into the room, I felt a sense of nostalgia. Despite only ever finding the room after my grandfather's passing, something about this place made me feel warm and happy, like I belonged here. This was where my grandfather imagined his greatest toys and made them come to life. It was here where he studied endlessly about the demon world and demon magic. I felt like I was stepping into a museum of history. Thinking about it, I began to wonder what my grandfather would think if he knew what I was going to marry one of the incubi he had brought into the human world. I knew he had been the one to do it. Damien confessed to me when Erik proposed. It was a bit interesting to think about how he would have reacted. Would he be proud? Would he be disappointed? I could never know. I was broken out of my thoughts, however, as I heard the click of a soft lock unlatching echo through the room. I turned my head towards the sound, pinning the origin of it to one of the nearby drawers. Why did it unlock on its own? I was a little nervous as to what had done that. Open it, of course. Also, my audio is not working. Open. I was indeed my grandfather's granddaughter. I felt my curiosity take control of my body and guide me to the drawer. Sliding it open, I saw two books neatly placed in the drawer, covered with a thin layer of dust. One was obviously my grandfather's magic book, and the other must have been his journal. I lifted both up and examined them, gingerly wiping the dust off of them. I wanted to read a bit more about each of them, but I wasn't sure which one to open first. I think grandfather's journal. I decided to look through grandfather's journal. Maybe he had something. It's working. Let me check the preferences. Maybe he had something he wanted to show me. I wasn't entirely sure why I was doing this in the first place. I opened his journal and scanned my eyes across each page I flipped through. He had so many notes, it was hard to fathom how him knowing so much about everything he wrote. He was smart, though, so it wasn't entirely surprising. One section, however, made me stop and read in depth. Demon children. On the page was a badly drawn sketch of a humanoid creature I had to assume was demon. From the size, it could have been a child, however, I wasn't entirely sure. Apparently there were multiple demon races, not just incubi and succubi. There were hundreds if not thousands of different demon types, and each had their own methods of how they bred to produce children. Demons of Lilith were the most human-like in terms of pregnancy. They bear the child for a set amount of time, and the delivery, paired with magic, was seamless and painless. However, as soon as a demon is born, the parents imbue their child's demon name into their souls. It seemed so confusing at first glance, but as I read further, I became more and more intrigued about demons and their children. Demon mothers, regardless of race, had to bear enough energy for both the mother and the child. This, along with a host of other reasons, were why females were the dominant gender of the abyssal planes. However, if a demon bearing a child didn't have enough energy, her child would absorb the last of it and kill off the mother in an attempt to sustain itself. Man. I swallowed thickly. Was energy that important to demons? How could a child even do that to their own mother? They'd die off too. One thing was explicitly mentioned, however. Unlike humans, demons form souls in the womb, making them living beings while still forming in their mother's body. They become sentient as soon as they are conceived. Oh man. It was strange to think about. Demon babies were aware they were alive before they were born. It was intriguing. The child's laughter reappeared, softly floating in the air and making me turn towards the door. I quickly followed it, leaving the room and returning to the lobby. Is anyone there? I seriously can't hear a thing. Am I deaf? As I turned to the stairs, I could hardly believe my eyes. A floating orb, barely the size of my head, was floating down the stairs and... Okay, there we go. Yeah, my headphones are dead. Oh man, this sucks. I guess I have to go without headphones for now. A floating orb barely the size of my head was floating down the stairs and towards the back doors. I gripped the railings and stared, not believing what I was seeing. Was this really happening? What was it even? A ghost? A spirit? Some illusion meant to trick me? I couldn't wrap my head about it. Still, it practically called for me to tail behind it. I continued to follow it. Man, I can't speak right now, I continued to follow it. It seemed to want me to anyway. Was this a game? It led me to the backyard, where it simply floated in thin air near the gazebo. I stayed by the doorway, unsure of actually stepping out of the house to meet with it. It didn't move, so I could only assume I'd accepted my hesitation. Hello?
Hi!
The orb gently spun around itself in a circle, almost like a happy child. For some reason, it made me feel really happy seeing it, despite it being a simple floating orb. It seemed friendly enough, so I stepped into the backyard and slowly made my way towards it. It gently bobbed up and down as if it was waiting for me to approach. I stopped a couple feet away from it, not wanting to get too close in case it was a trick. Hi there.
Hi! What's your name?
My name? Oh, it's Yuki.
Wow! That's a pretty name!
Thank you. Who are you?
Oh, I'm no one. I don't have a name.
Aw. You don't have a name?
No, I wasn't able to get one. But that's okay. I'll get one soon.
The orb, whatever it was, had to be the spirit of some child. Human? I didn't know. I wasn't sure. All I knew was how sweet and innocent it sounded. The child's voice was pulling at my heartstrings in all the right ways. The orb twirled around again with a small laugh.
Let's play together!
Oh, I mean, what do you want? What would we play? I almost couldn't believe the words coming out of my mouth. Was it really okay to be playing with a spirit? I mean, it was friendly, yes, but it was a spirit. What I was doing out in the middle of the night with it was another question I let go of and fade away in my head as I stared at the orb. My heart felt fuzzy and warm enough to ignore the doubt niggling at my brain. The orb dipped and spun around my body, making me giggle and try to follow it. As it circled back to where it used to be, it almost bounced in the air happily.
Come on, let's dance!
I began to dance around the orb as it moved gracefully around my form. In my head, a song began to play as I had fun weaving and swaying with the orb. I felt light and happy, even though a part of my mind was questioning what I was doing. Why was I doing this? Why was I so accepting of the spirit? My body was moving on its own, but I was enjoying every minute of it. The orb followed along, matching each sway with one of its own. Soft laughter echoed from it once in a while after every couple of steps I took. It seemed to enjoy my company, which in turn somehow made me happy.
Princess?
The orb gasped and hid behind me as I stopped dancing. I turned quickly to see Erik standing by the dorm frame with a confused but tired look on his face. Erik.
What are you doing out here, love?
I blushed, rubbing my hands together behind my back from embarrassment. I must have looked like a fool, dancing in the yard in the middle of the night. I turned my head to look at the orb, but gasped in surprise when I realized that it had disappeared. What? Huh?
What's wrong?
I was beyond lost and confused. What was happening? What had just happened? I turned back to Erik to see him walking towards me. I crossed my arms, realizing how cold the night air was, and smiled meekly at Erik. I just wanted to get some fresh air, that's all.
While dancing by yourself?
I stared up at Erik, not sure of what he meant. If he was watching, he would have seen the spirit dancing with me. I'm gonna tell him. You didn't see the orb that was dancing with me?
Huh? Orb?
Erik raised an eyebrow, obviously not understanding what I meant. Did he really not see it? It's true. There is a spirit here that looked like an orb and was dancing. And I was dancing with it, not by myself. I knew I wasn't making sense. He didn't seem to believe me. Still, I didn't want to lie to him. He was going to be my husband soon, so we had to trust each other. If my reason sounded stupid, fine, but at least it was the truth. Erik finally smiled and reached towards me before petting my head.
Did you have fun then?
Huh? Wait, he really did believe me? I wasn't entirely sure if he did, but from the look he gave me, he was willing to accept my answer either way. Erik gently reached out and took one of my hands, placing his other hand on my waist. I looked up at him to see his lips curve into a small, playful smirk.
Would you mind if I danced with you then, princess?
My face turned red at the question, but I smiled and nodded. I liked dancing with him. I tightened my hand over Erik's, straightening up and leaning against his chest, ready to dance. Erik chuckled softly. I can't. Erik chuckled softly before leading me into a slow but elegant waltz around the backyard. I felt like I needed to thank the spirit later for giving me yet another wonderful memory with Erik. He'd led me around the backyard as if we were a real ball. The moon served as a brilliant crystal chandelier, and the wind became our music. Eventually, however, we had to go back inside. The night was cold and it was very late. I didn't want the night to end, though. Watching Erik as we walked up the stairs to the bedroom, my heart began to flutter even more, and a soft heat began to burn in my core. He was not only charming, but he was handsome and definitely knew what buttons to press to make me feel amazing. Okay, it didn't matter if he was an incubus. I really had fallen in love with him and was both romantically and sexually attracted to him. Though, did I really want to pursue my desires right now? We did just stop dancing. Like I said, I'm just go for it. The burning in my core wasn't just going to go away. As Erik and I approached our room, I quickly pulled his arm and turned him to face me.
What?
Sorry. Before he could finish his sentence, I jumped up and wrapped my arms and legs around him, kissing him deeply. Instinctively, he circled his arms around me to support me, but he stared in shock at my eagerness. Within seconds, he melted into the kiss and panted against my lips, making me moan and reply at the sound. He tightened his grip around me as he walked backwards towards the bed. With his legs hit the side of the mattress, he sat down and allowed his hands to rub my back. I pulled away from the kiss ever so slowly, enjoying every moment that I was still connected to his lips before letting out a small sigh. I was pretty sure I had made myself clear, but I gave him a softly spoken demand. I don't want to go to bed yet. Erik stared up at me before licking his lips and slowly running his hands under my shirt and up on my back. Tingles shot up my spine as his fingers ran over my bare skin, a shuddering moan escaping my lips.
As my princess commands.
I felt Erik gently lift my shirt up, and I lifted my arms for him to fully remove it from my body before he tossed it to the side. The cool air hitting my skin made me shudder as Erik pulled me back for another heated kiss. Damn, his hands were memorizing my body. He knew what sports to caress, making me spots to caress, making me buck my hips against his and tighten my hold on him. When I felt his smirk against my mouth, I softly bit his lower lip, telling him silently not to play with me. I felt the warm sensation of his enthrallment invade my body, causing me to cuddle closer against his chest and softly grind my hips against his innate. His enthrallment was part of our foreplay, adding 10 times more pleasure to our sex. I knew that he poured every ounce of his love for me into our lovemaking. Every time we had sex was another confession of true love between us. It wasn't just to feed hunger and desire. It became one of many ways to show our love for each other. It was only a benefit that he was incubus and natural master of sex. Every touch made me tremble, and every kiss on my skin made me swoon and melt into his arms. He knew how to make me moan, how to make me crave him, how to make me shiver with ecstasy. I had been surprised to learn I was his first and his only with how talented he was. Don't believe that first. Soon it wasn't just my shirt that was removed from my body. Every article of clothing he and I wore ended up scattered through the room, unnoticed and uncared for. The only thing we cared about was each other and the pleasure we gave each other on our bed. We made sweet and passionate love, rocking to the rhythms of our heart and our desire for each other. Every moan I made, he matched in kind. Every breath I took, Erik found a way to make it heavier and hotter. My nails and fingers dug into his shoulders and back in pure ecstasy as he continued to drive into me over and over with his passion and love. Pulling me higher and higher towards my limit, I could only tighten my legs around him, lull him to more heated kisses, moan against his lips in desire. When we both apexed, it was blissful and a fiery ride towards a peaceful and loving wave washing over both of our bodies. Lost in my pleasure, I could only cuddle into Erik's arms as he wrapped them around me and pulled me against his chest, his feather-like kisses peppered over my forehead and making me smile.
Good night, my princess. I love you.
I love you too, Erik. I could only close my eyes and relish the warmth Erik gave me as I let my mind escape into dreamland. To my surprise, the child didn't return. It was a bit saddened, but I didn't let my thoughts linger on it any longer. I had a peaceful dream with Erik wrapped around me through the remainder of the night. As the morning came, however, the other incubi essentially kidnapped their brother, despite my minor protest, knowing that we had work to do on the wedding. The brothers were relentless. They're going on a bachelor party thing.
We're just stealing him for a bit. We'll return him later.
But we have to...
Everything will be alright. You can finish working on your dress while we keep him out of the house.
I mean, yeah, but...
You can survive a day without your love slave. You're marrying him after all. It's not like he'll be gone forever.
Everything will be alright, princess, I promise. As soon as we're done with whatever they want to do, then I'll come straight home.
Okay, I love you. I could barely make out him saying I love you too as he was dragged away by his brothers. As the front door closed, I could hear Erik being thrown over someone's shoulder, probably Sam's. I sighed before looking around the mansion. Since I was indeed alone, I had the chance to try and find that spirit again. Why had it run away for the first time? I quickly rushed to the backyard, looking around. It was much brighter, yes, but perhaps the spirit was still around? Despite not being able to find it, I scoured the entire mansion in hopes of meeting the orb again. It almost became a game of hide-and-seek, only I didn't know if the orb was hiding or was gone. After a straight hour of looking around, I gave up. The orb was nowhere to be found, and I was certain I wouldn't meet it again. I could only let out a sigh at the thought, but I shook my head and forgot about it at last. It had given me a moment with my love, so I was grateful. I went back into my room and flopped onto my bed, not really sure what to do. I could have organized what I was going to wear with my dress, but I really didn't want to pull my dress out of the garment bag it was in. Staring at the ceiling, I felt my eyelids slowly getting heavy, and soon I was letting my sudden drowsiness take hold of me. What was happening? Why did I feel like sleeping? It was close to noon, or was it past noon? I somehow couldn't remember anymore. I allowed myself to fall asleep, blaming the search and the wedding stress that lingered in my mind for tiring me out. My body floated in the darkness, met once again by a soft and peaceful lullaby. This nap was perfect, and I definitely deserved it. My body felt comfortable, and my thoughts were lulled into a quiet hum that accompanied the lullaby in the air. The only thing that would have made it better was Erik. As if my dream wanted to please me, an image of Erik appeared in my mind. He smiled his heart-pulling smirk at me, and I felt myself become warm and fuzzy just from his gaze. As he floated over to me, I became entranced in his eyes. My voice wouldn't come out, despite wanting to say his name, but I wrapped my arms around his neck and pulled him close to me. He leaned into my breast, ghosting his lips over mine, teasingly. Was Dream Erik trying to seduce me in my own dreams? I pressed forward, wanting to kiss him. We both didn't make a sound, but let our kiss relay our love for each other between our lips. My heart pounded in my chest as he wrapped his arms around my waist and pulled me even closer to him. It was strange. He felt so real in my arms. I combed my fingers through his hair, feeling the pink copper strands on top of his head, yet this was a dream. I knew it was a dream. His arms gently ran along my back and waist, not daring to go below it, but making wonderful shivers run up my spine with each stroke. I really liked this dream and tightened my hold on Erik, letting him know that I enjoyed his touch. Erik eventually pulled away from the kiss and smiled down at me, running a hand over my hair and caressing my cheek. I stared up at him lovingly, feeling a soft swell in my lips from the kiss we had shared. What I didn't expect was him slowly leaning down and planting a soft kiss over my chest, just over where my heart was. I stared, unsure of why he was doing such a thing. As my heart began to feel warmer and lighter, I let out a silent sigh out of my throat, feeling the pleasure of its sensation. Erik slowly backed away and disappeared, but I continued to feel the warmth over my heart sweetly emanate through my veins like a slow adrenaline rush. Was this happening to me? Tingles ran across every nerve of my body, making me shiver in delight. Whatever this was, I liked it. Soon the warmth lulled me into a peaceful hum, and I curled into myself, wrapping my arms around my body from the comfort it brought. I felt at peace, while my body felt like it was embracing the warmth enveloping it. It was strange, but I accepted the restful feeling. What? Oh no, my heart! From the darkness, dark laughter invaded the air, breaking the lullaby and making a sudden cold feeling wash over my skin. Before I could react, however, a large and deep pain invaded my chest, almost like a sword stabbing all the way through my body. I could not see anything of the sorts as I looked down at my chest, but my hands tightened over where the pain had erupted from. What was happening? I coughed, feeling blood splash out of my mouth and drip down my lips. I gasped for air, disgusted at the coppery taste in my mouth, but I was unable to break out of the illusion. I needed to wake up. The stabbing pain ripped through my insides as the invisible blades in my chest unsheathed itself from my torso and felt a second stab through my stomach, more blood gushing from my mouth. Someone help me! I felt my body slowly start to shut down. Was I dying in my own dream? Why couldn't I wake up? Cold waves ran through my nerves, numbing my body as if I was indeed slowly dying. As blood dripped from my chin, I felt lightheaded in the darkness. I think I made the wrong choice, but an almost violent shake brought me from my dream, forcing me to physically open my eyes.
Princess!
I gasped for air, no longer able to taste blood or feel pain. I was back in my room, staring at Erik's concerned face as he held my shoulders. I shuddered from the experience, unable to forget the feelings of being stabbed in my own dream. Erik, however, had saved me.
Love, what happened? You were thrashing around and...
I didn't let him finish. I grabbed Erik's body and slammed myself into his chest, happy to no longer be trapped in the dream, and thankful that he woke me from it. Erik wrapped his arms around me and gently rubbed my back, soothing me as I began to cry onto his shoulder.
Did you have a nightmare?
It was terrible. I was being attacked by something in the darkness. I couldn't do anything about it.
Shh. It's okay now. You're safe. I'm right here.
I could only nod as Erik rubbed me back and forth, comforting me. It may have been a dream, but I was still mortified by it. It seemed almost too real to be just a dream. I didn't want to think about it anymore. I didn't want to remember that dream, especially how horrible it was. I was supposed to be getting mentally ready for my wedding, not having nightmares about dying. Erik kissed me over my head and face, trying to soothe my sadness. He wiped away my tears and continued to hold me close until I was calm and relaxed. I tried to reassure myself it was a dream. It was just a stupid dream. Just a nightmare. Erik pulled away, not releasing me from his arms, and looked down at me with a soft frown.
I'm sorry that I left. I should have been here, making sure that you had good dreams.
I shook my head. Erik needed to spend time with his brothers. It was important enough to him that he let himself be dragged away by them. No, it's alright. I'll be fine.
Are you sure, Princess?
Yeah, I'm sure. I had to shake this off. I didn't know what was going on, but now Erik was here and could be with me in case anything else happened. After I had finally calmed down, Erik told me about what the boys had done. They took Erik to a cafe deep in the downtown Chicago, just wanting to have a brother-to-brother come talk with him. I was happy he got to spend time with them, but Erik had practically rushed home to return to me. The dream did not appear again that night. Erik used his powers to enter my dreams and kept me safe from anything that tried to hurt me, and thankfully nothing did. However, there was a strange feeling in my gut that didn't sit right with me. For some reason, Erik's comfort didn't make me feel okay. It was as if I didn't want him in my dreams. My heart knew this was a problem, but I wasn't sure of how to respond with this new feeling. Slowly, as the days passed by and our wedding approached, the feeling became more aggressive. Soon I was becoming more irritated more easily. We're possessed. I became angry at the smallest things, the steps he took, the things he'd wear, the looks he gave me, or what I assumed he gave me. No, Erik, I don't want anything right now.
Love, I didn't say any.
You're looking at me with those sex eyes again.
Sex eyes? I swear, I wasn't doing anything of the sort.
You're doing it now! I couldn't control the words that were flying out of my mouth. Something was wrong. But I continued to speak cruelly towards Erik. My heart was at odds with my mind, and I didn't know what was going on. But I continued my marriage.
Love, what is going on?
What's going on? You are what...
I'm sorry.
Oh. I felt Erik's enthrallment take over my body, forcing me to go weak in the knees and meal out in surprise. My mind stopped thinking about attacking Erik, and my heart felt entirely relieved that the urge was gone. Erik gently wrapped his arms around me, being sure to keep his arms around my shoulders and rocked with me, trying to calm me down.
Love, are you having doubts?
No, I'm not. I don't know what
You swear you're not having doubts about us?
I promise. I was able to speak the truth under a spell. It was strange. It was like I was under a curse when I wasn't under his enthrallment, somehow despising every little thing Erik did. Yet I knew it. Wait. My heart got pierced by something. Oh no! Yet I knew it wasn't true. I loved everything about him, but my mind wouldn't agree. I am cursed. I gripped Erik's shirt, wanting to stay close and show my true feelings for him.
Listen to me, okay? I love you so much. If you have any doubts on us getting married, then please just tell me. I don't know what's going on in your beautiful head.
I love you too. I really, really do. I don't know what's happening to me. It made no sense. Why did I despise Erik yet love him? My mind, heart, and body were at odds with each other, and I wasn't sure what to do. This went on all the way until our wedding day. Somehow, Erik managed to deal with me the entire time, enthralling me when things became rough to keep me calm. The incubi tried to decipher what was going on with me, but none of them could figure it out. I was going to marry Erik. Then I was going to figure it out what was wrong with me. I knew I still loved him with every inch of my heart, mind, body, and soul, so feeling disdain like this was not natural for me. I had asked Erik to place me under the enthrallment for our wedding in case I lashed out again. He reluctantly agreed and stayed with me the morning of our wedding day. I was supposed to dress alone and be by myself, but I needed Erik to keep me in check. I felt ridiculously warm and fuzzy as I stood in the bathroom, having come out of a hot shower with Erik. We didn't do anything together, but he remained close enough to keep me enthralled and remain energized enough to maintain the enthrallment. Erik gently ran my brush through the strands of my hair, being as sweet and caring as he always was towards me. Because of the enthrallment, I felt each stroke and derived so much pleasure from his brushing. It was hard not to moan.
Well, love, today's the big day.
Yeah, I'm so happy.
I truly hope so. I'm the happiest man alive to be able to soon call you my wife.
I want to be your wife. I want you to be my husband. I felt like crying. Why did I have to be enthralled to say such things? I really loved him, but somehow I couldn't bring myself to say it without him casting the spell over me. Erik looked at me and through the bathroom mirror and gently smiled, believing me and placing a small kiss on my cheek.
By the way, are you using a new soap?
And screenshot. Wait. Good enough. Huh? I looked at Erik, unsure what he meant. I had used the same soap as I always use, so my scent shouldn't have been different. Erik tilted his head and gently inhaled again before smiling a little wider.
You smell different. I kind of like it.
I blushed, not because of the enthrallment, but because I didn't know I had a different smell. Was something that off about me? I couldn't have been that drastic, right? Erik finished brushing my hair and smiled, kissing my head.
All right, time for you to get into your dress. I'm afraid that I can't join in dressing you as much as I want to. Can't see the bride in her gown before the wedding. I also have to get to the ceremony venue to get my tuxedo. However, my enthrallment should stay on you until you arrive.
I tried to fight back, but Erik held up his finger.
No. I promise that everything will be okay. As soon as I see you, I'll enthrall you again, and we can go through the ceremony as planned.
This is actually
Okay.
kind of sad. As much as I wanted to fight it, I was thankful that Erik was willing to go through all of this to make sure that I wouldn't throw a fit, despite me not wanting to in the first place. I agreed and earned a small kiss from him, which I relished.
All right. I love you. I'll see you soon.
I nodded, smiled back at him before he slipped on his regular clothes and left the mansion. I felt the enthrallment on me ebb and flow through my body, so I needed to hurry and get ready before it wore off. I got dressed in the wedding dress of my dreams and smiled as I prepared my hair and jewelry. I really did look like the perfect bride, ready for her big day. Why was I acting out against it? I would never know, but I was going to fix this after I said I do. As I stared at myself, I could see a small glow about my body. Was it Erik's spell? I giggled, wrapping my arms around myself and enjoying the feel of his spell it had on me.
I knew it! I knew it! That girl has demon magic!
No! I didn't do anything. What the?
And quit talking and let's take her! The demon lord will be so pleased!
Who? Before I could turn to search for the voices, I felt hands grab hold of my feet and looked down and lifted my dress. Two pairs of evil-looking hands had taken hold of my ankles, reaching through a dark red and purple pentagram. I shrieked, trying to pull my legs away, but couldn't stop them as they swiftly pulled me into the ground. I was pulled deeper into the darkness. I was no longer in my room. I was being dragged through a dark void, one that I couldn't escape. I reached out and clawed at the dark, trying to find something to grab onto. I tried to pull my legs away from the hands they were holding them, but I couldn't pull free. What was going on? Why was this happening? Someone help me! As if someone had heard my screams, I suddenly felt the hands let go and disappear, leaving me to float in the darkness they left me in. I shut my eyes. Please let this be a dream. Please let this be a dream. I finally felt a surface under my feet, and I collapsed onto it, my body curling in on itself from the experience I had. I didn't dare tear my eyes away from my lap, not ready to get up just yet. The voice I heard, however, made my heart stop.
You! What are you doing here?
I looked up, finally having the courage to take in my surroundings. My heart stopped beating for a moment, seizing in my chest. I looked up to see 5 figures, strangers, monsters, beings that I didn't recognize. They all looked down at me in surprise as I had just dropped in a very bad time. One man looked like an orc from a fantasy game without the tusks. He had broken horns and very frightening aura around him as he stared at me. The other male was lanky in comparison, more human-like, but I could almost feel power emanating from him regardless. One of the women who was staring at me had rabbit ears. They twitched on top of her head, and she looked at me and gripped her staff. She seemed harmless, yet she had animal ears. The one creature that I couldn't discern the sex of seemed more excited to see me than surprised. What freaked me out about them was that they had wings sticking out from their back and they were floating. The last woman, however, set off alarm bells in my head as I looked at her in surprised face. Her hair, her eyes. Diana? As she stared, the woman turned her body towards me in recognition of the name I called her. It was her.
What are you doing here?
Diana walked towards me and stared down at me. It was odd. She didn't look like a human, yet I was afraid of her demon form as it towered over me. I was more in shock as to what was going on. Before Diana could speak further, most likely to repeat herself, a figure quickly stepped up and bowed to her, kneeling beside me.
My lady, please forgive me. I felt something moving between our worlds and assumed the Demon Lord was to blame, so I intercepted his summoning of this human.
You! So I wasn't the only one who felt the change in the air.
Diana stared at the man kneeling beside me as I kept my eyes up at her. As she turned her gaze back to me, I gulped silently. What was she going to do with me? This all felt wrong. I was about to be married. I was about to live my happily ever after with the man I loved. Now I was in a place I didn't know with Diana and a bunch of other creatures I didn't recognize. My instinct was to... scream? I needed to. I had to. My anger and sadness bubbled and boiled until the need to scream pressed against my throat, forcing me to let it go. Ah! Can't scream because my voice is going away. As my scream escaped me, the other beings in this room jumped back and covered their ears. My scream wasn't weak, it was loud and bounced around the room in an endless echo. I didn't care if my throat would hurt. I didn't care that I also felt the pain of my shriek. I just needed to scream and let out my sadness. Why was this happening? Why? Why? I wrapped my arms around my body, letting the scream use up all of the air in my lungs. I wasn't helping, but I just needed some sort of release.
Damn it, stop!
All of a sudden, my body began to heat up and I felt my voice dissipate into silence. I was a little dizzy, but I felt calm and the anger I had was gone. I stared up at Diana, wondering what was going on. Diana had extended her hand out to me, staring at me with a pained expression as her visible eye glimmered a warm golden color. Was she enthralling me? I didn't feel aroused, but I guess that was the warm feeling my body was a demon's enthrallment spell. Regardless, I felt my throat heal from the scream as I stared up at Diana.
Are you calm now?
No.
For a human, the girl can really shrink.
Better than the sirens can. That's for sure. Poor thing. She must be traumatized.
Traumatized? Or psychotically mad?
Be quiet, Shadow.
Everyone, hush!
Silence engulfed the room as Diana looked at the four beings behind her. She then turned back to me and then held out her hand, ushering me to take it.
Can you stand?
I nodded and took her hand, standing up at last. I looked around the other beings in the room. They all kept their gaze to me, unsure what I would do or say. Diana, however, held up the conversation.
First, can you tell me what happened to you?
I took a breath and recounting everything that happened. I was about to go on to the church to be married, and then I was attacked by this darkness. A couple of hands grabbed my legs and pulled me into it, and then I fell here.
A shadow something.
Diana turned to one of the beings, the lanky male, and glared.
One of yours couldn't have.
On my honor, it wasn't any of mine.
Oh wait, no, that was probably
We have nothing
out.
to gain from kidnapping a human. Nor do we know who this woman is, anyhow.
Sado, I think that was his name. Sado? I don't know. Her guard guy. One of those two. Okay.
My lady, if I may, I clearly remember hearing imp demons in the void along with her. It must have been the Demon Lord's henchmen.
Those damnable creatures. That explains it.
Diana crossed her arms and looked to me again.
Well, dear, it seems that you were to be either a new harem girl for the Demon Lord to ravish, or bait for the boys to return to their father's side. Either way, I doubt you would have lived long had the Demon Lord gotten his hands on you.
A violent shiver ran up my spine. Was it true? I would have died.
Wait a minute. This girl knows about the Demon Lord's heirs?
Yes, hilariously enough, she was set to marry one of them, as you can see from her garb.
As Diana motioned towards my dress, I realized how vulnerable I was and felt extremely self-conscious. I wrapped my arms around myself as Diana let out a sigh.
Well, since you do not belong here, the obvious thing to do is to send you home.
I couldn't help but stare wide-eyed at Diana. She was really going to send me home? Really? I couldn't believe my ears. You will really send me back?
Of course. It should be easy to do once everything is in order. It'll be like you never left the human world.
Wait, like I never left the human world? What do you mean like I left the human world? Diana stared before chuckling softly and gesturing to the room and beings within it.
Dear, do you not realize where you are? You are in the demon world.
My mind went blank. It couldn't be. I couldn't be in the demon world. No way. No way in hell. I felt myself back up against the wall behind me, suddenly afraid. I was in another world? How? That was impossible. Diana stepped towards me, both of her hands softly trying to show she meant no harm as she positioned them in front of her body.
Do not panic. We will send you back now, so there's nothing to worry about.
How will you power the spell? Bringing someone here is no easy task, but sending someone back consumes much more energy.
That's what happened to my grandfather.
I'll use what energy I have now and rest. We can organize the siege another time when I fully recover. It's not like the Demon Lord can escape the corner we've trapped him in, so we do have some time to spare.
You'd waste time and energy on this human. We must strike now while the Demon Lord is weakened.
But the human doesn't belong here. She needs to go home.
Shall I prepare the return spell?
Do. I grant you permission to use my energy to power the spell.
With a nod, the lanky male held out his hand towards the wall. I looked over in the direction it was aimed at. Diana's shadow? I watched as Diana's shadow simply stood against the wall, mirroring the movements of the real succubus in the room. Before my eyes, the shadow began to morph and expand on the wall on its own. I looked back to Diana to see her wrapping her arms around herself and curling her shoulders over as if she was in pain. Her nails embedded themselves into her forearms, and she could barely make out I could barely make out a painful hiss escaping her clenched teeth. Was the spell hurting her that badly? I turned back to the wall to see Diana's shadow shaking and vibrating, as if it was resisting the change the man was forcing on it.
You will obey my command. Open the gates to the void, and allow passage to the world we seek.
Transitum per petto genibus, ubi aperiunt, ianoium, residium.
Upon Diana's final word, her shadow burst and expanded into an oval-shaped doorway. I stared wide as the passage before a hand placed itself on my shoulder, forcing me to look over. The one with the spear gently pressed my shoulder forward and looked down at me with an almost stern face.
You must leave now. The faster you leave, the quicker we can close the void.
Go! Go! Go get married!
I quickly nodded and lifted the bottom of my dress, stepping forward to make a run for this passageway. However, before I could bolt towards my freedom, a snarl echoed through the room.
How dare you interfere with my summoning!
At the very moment, Diana began to scream, arcing her spine and throwing her head back. Around her body were red-tinted bolts of lightning, flashing and shocking the floor.
No! Human! Use the passage! Now!
He didn't have to tell me twice. I bolted towards the portal, diving forward as I neared it, but I was forced back by a burst of energy and a flash of red light. I fell to the floor, almost slamming my head into the stone.
Human will never, ever leave this world alive! Use spineless words!
Close the portal! The demon lord might get through!
But the human...
Close it!
As commanded, the man pulled his hand back, visually forcing his hand back behind his body. And Diana's shadow quickly began to morph back into a simple shadow. The electricity around Diana faded away, and as she began to tip forward, the man with the spear dropped his weapon and caught Diana in his arms, cradling her to his body as she panted and gasped for air.
I don't sense the demon lord anywhere.
The one has to scurry through the shadows to try and fight back. He'll be dead soon enough.
How is she, guard?
Diana seemed to be looking injured, but her body was twitching from the aftermath of the magical attack. Her visible eye was shut tight as she dug her fingers into the guard's jacket to cling to him. As her eye opened, I saw not a blood ruby red color, but I saw a cold and unfriendly golden color painted over her iris. Her mouth opened as she panted for air, and I could see hunger in her facial expression, but she continued to stare at the wall, not wanting to make eye contact with anyone.
There are no physical wounds, but she's been weakened. I must give her my energy so she can recover.
The man swiftly moved and hooked an arm underneath Diana's knees, lifting her up bridal style as she clung to his jacket, shivering. The spirit had fallen to the floor, faded into black and purple mist as he quickly left the room with her in his arms. My mind, however, began to panic. I couldn't go home? Why was I being forced to stay? Damn the demon lord, this wasn't right!
There's an imp in the castle. That is the only way the demon lord could have been able to interfere.
You! Guards by the door! Hunt it down!
A pair of guards that were apparently by the door saluted the one commanding them and ran off. I felt out of place, alone, terrified as to what was going to happen. The demon lord wanted me here, and his words pounded at my mind. How was I going to get home? Would I ever be able to go home?
Hey.
I looked up to see the winged person hovering near me before they moved and sat on their knees on the stone ground beside me.
We'll get you home, okay? Diana just needs a little rest, okay? She needs more than rest. She needs to use a different spell to send her back. The demon lord will expect her to use the shadow spell again.
How about the normal way? I'm sure we can connect to a witch, or even the warlock she used before, to reopen a portal to the human world.
The warlock she used to get to the human world died, remember? And he was the most powerful warlock in the human world, practically a god himself. What other human could be used to open a portal without another human dying?
It was merely a suggestion. The faster we get this human home, the faster we can move on and finish off the Demon Lord.
Well, what are we going to do with the human now?
We can give her a room to rest in. Humans need sleep after all. Maybe by the time she wakes up, we'll think of a solution. Come.
The woman with rabbit ears looked down at me and lowered her hand to me, inviting me to take it. She had a kind but concerned expression on her face, so I trusted her. I slowly took her hand and began to stand up as the fairy figure brushed off the small patches of dust that accumulated on my dress. I couldn't do anything. I was forced to listen to the beings around me because there was nothing else I could do. Without them, I couldn't go home. My heart ached, but I had to accept my predicament.
Here, I'll bring you to the open ambassador's room. You are free to rest there for now.
Okay. I was led out of the room and into the hall. There. I kept my eyes down, trying to take in more of the situation I was in. I was trapped in the demon world and Diana was out of commission. The demon lord had plans for me, but what exactly was he aiming for? I could have been bait. I could have been revenge. I didn't know, nor could I figure out right now. At least I was safe. At least, I hoped I was. The woman led me to a room that practically screamed medieval fantasy. Everything was clean, but it still had that old age feel, as if no one had ever stepped foot in the room until that moment.
Rest here for now. When Diana is well again, we can discuss what to do.
Thank you. I nodded to the woman before she gently curtsied and left, closing the door behind her. I took a moment to observe my surroundings, interested in understanding the aesthetic. This was fantasy turned into reality. It was like I had gone back in time. Why though? Was the demon world really that behind in the times, or did magic supersede technology and this was the result? Despite the situation I was in, which was beyond heartbreaking and terrible, my curiosity began to fester in my mind, as I felt as I was given a golden opportunity to learn something new. However, my thoughts began to drift, and I felt myself becoming weak and dizzy, no doubt from the shock and trauma I had gone through. I stumbled towards the bed, leaning to sit down and let everything settle in without passing out. As my rear hit the mattress, however, I let out a small, pleasured sigh. Holy crap, this is a comfy mattress. I felt myself fall back, and my entire body simply melted into the softness beneath my body. Alright. It was like I was sleeping on a cloud. Was that possible? Demon magic may have been something to do with it. But I was certain that I was drifting into an almost blissful sleep just by lying on the blankets and mattress. Not caring that I was still in my dress, I closed my eyes and drifted to sleep. I needed to rest, since Diana wouldn't be available for a while anyway. Darkness surrounded my mind, my dreams remaining silent and hushed in a cool and calm black. No nightmares appeared and no sounds were made. I was simply resting, and that was all my body needed. I let my thoughts wander into my subconscious, thinking about what was going to happen now. What will the boys do when they realize I'm gone? What will he do? I imagined finding a way through the demon world and pulling me back to where I belonged, wrapping me in his arms and swearing to never let me go. I would be relieved, and we would be married just as we planned. How unrealistic was that? I had to be realistic right now. I was stuck, and the only one who seemed to be able to send me back was Diana and her companions, whoever they were. I had to trust them whether I liked it or not. Eventually, I did rise from my sleep, slowly, somehow feeling refreshed and calm. How could that be?
Did you have a good rest?
I turned my head to see Diana at the door, arms crossed and leaning against the door's archway. She had a look of concern and pure curiosity on her face as she awaited my answer. Wanna be mean? Do you not know how to knock? Diana pressed her lips into a fine line and almost sneered at me.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll knock next time. Would you like me to fluff your pillows too before I send you back to the human world?
Right, she was sending me back. Why was I being an ass? I sighed. Sorry, I'm just missing home. Diana sighed as she rubbing her temple.
I know. I can't expect you to be fully calm about the situation you are in, especially since you've done nothing to deserve it, from what I know.
Diana shook her head and stepped into the room, closing the door behind her.
So we need to find another way to get you back to the human world. It won't be easy, but I believe it can be done by tonight, at the latest.
Tonight? Really? Diana nodded and crossed her arms again, leaning on one hip.
It will take time to get our shadow agents to gather the necessary supplies, but they are not hard to obtain, being that we're in a position of power. You must be lucky.
What do you mean? Diana sighed before casting a short spell under her breath. In front of me appeared a floating map, almost like a hologram. It showed an entire world within mountains, plains, and forests, and all of it was surrounded by sea and water. Diana pointed at a marker that had a purple banner at its tip. It was marked in the center of some mountain and forest area. It was also the very center of the map.
That is where we are currently, the center of the abyssal plains.
Diana then ran her finger in a circle around the marker, showing a perimeter around it.
Everything we need for the spell is within this area. It will just take time to gather the materials and prepare it.
I nodded, understanding the situation. I was going to hopefully be able to go home tonight, which was better than not going home at all. So, what should I do until then?
My suggestion? Stay in this room. I can mark this room as off-limits so that no demon may enter that would confuse you for an intruder and kill you.
I gulped. I did not want to die. As Diana made the magical map disappear, she shrugged.
However, I cannot stop you from whatever you wish to do. Just don't leave the castle.
I nodded as she turned to leave. As she stepped out, Diana looked back to me with a reassuring look.
We'll get you back to the human world. I promise you that.
Finally, she left me alone in the room. I let out a small sigh and looked up at the ceiling. I had to wait until tonight to actually do anything. What was I going to do? Part of me agreed with Diana's suggestion, wanting to stay in the room and be safe in case the guards didn't know who I was and would kill me on sight. My curiosity, however, wouldn't leave me alone and wanted me to explore the castle. I was handed an opportunity to explore a castle in the demon world, and part of me did not want it to go to waste. I was torn on what to do. Explore. There was no way I was letting this chance pass me by. I stood and walked towards the door, opening it a crack and looking around. There was no one in the hall, but there were 2 directions to go. Which way? I'll go left. I went with left. I closed the door behind me as I exited my room and began to make my way down the left corridor. Everything was definitely medieval style, and I felt a bit small in the hall. It was like I was in a fairy tale, walking around in a wedding dress. It almost felt dreamlike. The passage seemed long, decorated with wall candles and paintings and random curtains and flowers. It was mystical to see, and I smiled. As I approached another fork in the hall, however, I sighed. Really? How does anyone find their way around? I looked back, knowing I hadn't walked far from my room. I could turn back. Yet... left. I was heading left anyway. Might as well take another left. I turned left once more and headed down the hall, greeted by more fantastical decor. The sound of a heated battle caught my attention. I quickly rushed over to see a door barely open a crack, and behind it echoed the sound of clashing swords. Oh. I peeked in to see Diane and the guard that was with her before in an intense sword fight. Now that I could take a closer look, the man was extremely handsome and looked human, yet I could sense that he was very much demon just from his presence alone. The man had the upper hand, but it was easy to tell that he was holding back slightly while letting Diana swing her sword again and again at him before attacking her and forcing her to defend. The look on Diana's face showed sheer concentration and anger as her sword clashed with his. I'd never seen Diana with this intense before, so to see stress and determination written across her expression was a surprise. What was she fighting with the sword, though? She had demon magic.
You're holding back! Enough!
Diana jumped back from the man, bringing her sword to her side, as the man did the same in the perfect sync. She growled before tossing the weapons to him, and he caught it by the hilt with ease.
I told you not to hold back. Didn't you hear me?
The man stared at Diana before gently bringing the swords together and making them vanish into a soft black mist. He began to walk towards her as she turned around and crossed her arms.
You can't treat me as if you were training a child, Sarah. I need to be ready for whatever the Demon Lord throws my way, and you holding back is only a hindrance to me.
I apologize, my lady.
Empty words.
It clicked. They were training. This man was her trainer, and she was being treated like a novice. Why? Also, he did apologize. Why was she being so harsh about it? Maybe it was a mistake? Diana let out a sigh and walked to the balcony of the room, laying her hands on the railings and leaning over her arms.
As each day goes by, my kingdom, my army, and I are constantly at risk. If I cannot defend myself when my energy runs out, then how will I defend this kingdom?
Just noticed, her eyebrows are a little wonky looking right now.
You will be victorious.
I will be slaughtered because of your inability to train me properly.
You know why I cannot, and yet you still demand it of me. I cannot bring myself to even potentially harm you.
And that will lead to my death.
What? What was Sarah talking about? Why couldn't he train her properly? Why was she so peeved about it? Couldn't she just get another trainer?
He will not die, my lady. I promise you that.
Because he's going to sacrifice himself for her.
I cannot trust anyone who says that to me.
But you know that it's true. I will repeat my promise over and over to you until you accept it.
That promise comes out of a lie.
I watched as Sarah walked over to Diana and gently wrapped his arms around her from behind. She didn't resist, but she didn't lean into the embrace either.
My love for you is not a lie, Azair.
You do not have permission to use my name.
You are avoiding the subject. My feelings for you are real.
Your feelings are false.
They are as pure and true as your golden heart.
I could not believe what I was seeing. Diana had an admirer? Why is that so hard to believe? When did this become a thing? Who else was this? Who even was this guy to her? Why was she so against him and his love?
You will defeat the Demon Lord and bring freedom to the Abyssal Plains. You will rise and become the land's new queen and sovereign, and I will stand beside you forevermore, because I love you. Deny my love all you may. I have served you and your family my entire life. I could never lie or hurt you. If you truly cannot love me back, then I will remain as your humble protector and servant till the end of my days.
You waste your life on me.
It is not a waste to serve and protect the woman I love with my life.
You waste your love on me.
It's not a waste to love such a wonderful woman.
I didn't know what to think of this. Sarah really seemed dedicated to Diana, yet she was putting up some sort of emotional wall between them and he couldn't break through. It was sad to watch, yet from the posture Diana held, I could tell that she felt her actions were justified. Maybe she was trying to protect him from her. Maybe she didn't want to hurt him. I had seen firsthand what she could do if you had something she needed. This must have been how she acted when something needed her, I guess. Sarah and her, okay. Diana gently sighed to his, and my surprise, Diana turned her body slightly to Sarah. Where did his jacket go? In his arms and ran her hands over Sarah's chest, making his uniform top vanish into purple mist and leaving his chest bare. What was Diana doing?
I need energy.
That is our cue to leave.
From me, or do you wish me to?
Just give me your energy. I have no time to wait for you to get me a sweet flower.
Mika / just leave already. Sarah nodded before gently turning Diana fully to him in his arms and kissing her. For some reason it may have looked like a normal kiss, but I could feel the love and passion that ran through it. It was almost magical to watch. Stop being a voyeur. You gotta go. This is... One thing was for certain, however, he really did love her. The way he held her painted his feelings like a picture, so openly and gentle and loving. Did she love him, though? She simply had one hand holding on one of his arms while another rested against Sarah's back. Diana's feelings were an enigma. I quickly took the moment to leave, not wanting to disturb them and not wanting to see their moment go any further than that kiss. Thank you. I remained in my room until the night came. I was given food which looked like soup. The woman who gave it to me apologized, letting me know that food was scarce until the upcoming harvest, which was a couple days away. Being that I was only staying with a day, I didn't mind much. I was more concerned over what I was given to eat. It was some sort of stew with mysterious chunks swimming in its broth. It smelled surprisingly good, but who knew how it tasted? No. No way, no how. I was not in the mood to try out new things after what I had been through, and this was not something I wanted to try at all. A knock rapped on my door, breaking me out of my train of thought. Huh? Come in. The door opened to reveal Diana with a plate, holding things I recognized. Bread and cheese, and I let a sigh of relief before Diana laughed.
I suggest not trying that. As good as it smells, the taste would not sit well with you.
Instantly, I moved the bowl to the nearby table. Thankfully, I did not have to try it. Diana handed me the plate and nodded, reassuring me that what was on it was indeed what it seemed.
It's not much, but it's human food. Eat up.
I will. I began to chow down, feeling the hunger in my stomach dissipate with each bite and swallow. The food I was eating surprisingly was delicious. Well, it's just bread and cheese. As I began to crave something to drink, Diana chuckled and formed a small goblet in her hand filled with clear liquid I assumed was water. I took it and drank it down, feeling my thirst quenched before I let out a sigh. I feel so much better.
I can tell. Take a moment to finish eating, then we'll head for the ritual.
I looked up at Diana, suddenly excited. Everything was prepared for? Was it possible to go home now? As if she read my mind, she smiled and nodded.
We finished the main preparations. We just need to head over and we'll start.
I couldn't continue eating. My mind went into an obsessive frenzy of wanting to go home. I stood up, moving the plate and gulped it to the nearby table. Let's go.
Huh? Are you sure?
I nodded, not wanting to waste any more time. I needed to get home and I was tired of waiting. Diana stared before nodding and heading for the door, opening it for me and exiting after me. As she closed the door behind her, I began to feel my heart flutter in relieved joy. I was heading home. Diana led me down the corridors of the warm room where I had originally arrived, to reveal the table covered in plants and artifacts of different kinds. None of it made sense to me, but I had to only assume that it was what was needed for the spell to work. Diana walked to the table and took note of what she saw, and nodding.
This should work.
You're in doubt?
Have to be after the last time we tried sending her home. Do we have a human anchor?
No, you're on your own this time. But we'll make sure you survive casting it.
The spell should work, however, because we'll be using energy material. It will only require a slice of your energy on top of these items, which your guard can refill immediately after this.
Just make sure you don't die casting it.
Diana smiled at her guard before turning to me.
So, are you ready to return home?
She didn't have to ask. I'm ready. Diana nodded once more before turning back to the table. She lifted her arms over the surface and lowered her head, muttering under her breath.
Ote negros portas, afriat nobis, lagiatur exidio, desiderio.
As she spoke, the table began to glow as she did. A dark purple aura began to surround her form as she lifted and arched her head back, staring at the ceiling. A glimpse at her eyes made me gasp. Warm golden orbs covered her blood-red irises, glowing with magic. She was deep within the spell, and I could see it slowly draw energy from her body. The items around the table began to gleam wildly, light orbs floating from them and dancing in the air above the table's surface. They began to weave back and forth with each other, almost as if the lights were dancing to a silent tune. The other demons stepped back as Diana moved her arms up and pointed to the dancing lights. Her finger pointed into the air, leading the lights to follow where it directed obediently. She drew a large circle in the air, and the lights surrounded like a perfect trail, spreading out and forming a large void in the air. As they finally stopped moving, they burst into a bright light, causing the demons and I to cover our eyes from it. It engulfed the room, but died down just as fast, revealing a small tear in the air. Diana quickly leaned forward and dug her hands into it before pulling the tear apart, revealing my bedroom! Diana continued to pull the tear open, giving enough space for me to jump through.
Hurry and go through! This is your chance!
I wasn't going to let it go to waste. I gripped the bottom of my dress, rushed forward, using momentum to jump into the air and forward towards the void. I could almost reach it. I could almost feel the air conditioning in my room right away, from my room right at my fingertips. I was...
She will never leave this world alive!
The Demon Lord's voice rang through the air just as I saw my fingertips pass through the tear. What stopped the rest of my body was a red light and forcing me and Diana back from the opening. I felt my body fly backwards and slam into the wall before I landed onto the stone ground. I heard Diana as well land beside me with a painful thud. I looked up and felt my heart break as the tear became wrapped in red lightning, zipping itself closed and vanishing into thin air. No, this could not be.
Damn it! That should have worked! How could it have failed?
We must have missed something. Was there anything we had forgotten?
No, I verified everything myself. Then why was the Demon Lord able to overpower a gate spell? I highly doubt you know either, brute.
Stop fighting! We need to make a plan and all of you are just being stupid! Stupid!
Are you alright, Isaiah?
I'm fine.
I was too lost in my mind to fully understand what was going on around me. I was so close. I felt the other side. I had almost made it home. Why couldn't I go home? Diana's brunt of pain next to me made me shoot my head towards her and watch her slowly push herself off the ground and glare at the table.
The Demon Lord must have done something more than simply bring her here.
What could he have done? The Demon Lord is incapable of doing anything of the sort. His lackey imps must have done something to her.
A spell?
A curse.
I looked to the rabbit woman, seeing her stare wide-eyed at me. The other demons stared at me as well, suddenly felt like I was on display. Was something wrong with me?
She will not leave the demon world alive. He must have placed some sort of curse on her to prevent her from leaving this plane. In order to leave, she'd have to die.
What? My mind went blank. Did the Demon Lord really curse me? Was I forced to stay in this world until I died? I could never go back?
Are you suggesting a barrier curse? That would explain the red energy that sealed the tear.
But dark magic like that requires
Blood of 1,000 demons. He must have sacrificed part of his army to cast a curse on her that would prevent her from leaving.
The Demon Lord is that desperate for her. The only way to break that kind of curse is to kill the caster. The demon...
She's trapped here until this war is over.
My body began to shiver violently. The Demon Lord killed 1,000 demons just to trap me here. Why? Why? I slammed my fist into the ground and began to scream. I want to go home! Why? I could feel the sympathy and anger in the room, but I didn't care. I was beyond livid. I was far past broken. I was seeing red. I still can't scream. Ah! As my voice ripped through the air, a bright light erupted through the room once again. Everyone covered their eyes, but Diana quickly scrambled to get on her knees and covered me with her body. She held me tightly as the light invaded the space and slowly began to fade. As the light finally died, everyone moved their hands to see what had happened. In the air was a white tear that was slowly opening, facing down towards the table. Something was coming. I could feel it in the air. The guard summoned his spear and pointed it at the tear, glaring at it and gritting his teeth.
Something's coming!
In reply, Diana summoned what looked like a saber and placed it in front of us.
Ready yourselves! It could be the Demon Lord!
The other demons in the room readied themselves and stared at the tear, either holding a weapon or preparing a spell. I felt the air change, becoming heavier as the tear began to grow. The energy around it began to pulsate, making everyone in the room much more tense. I stared at the tear as well, frightened as to what was coming. Was it the Demon Lord? His minions? My mind began to cycle through fearful ideas of what was about to appear. My heart almost stopped. Falling from the tear and landing on the table were the 5 incubi brothers. They were piled on top of one another, having coming through one at a time. However, as the last brother landed, the boys fell to one side, toppling off of the table and landing on the floor. The rebels around me stared at the fallen pile of incubi, confused and surprised as the tear in the air closed. The ogre man was the first to lower his sword.
What the hell? Who are they?
Careful! They could be the Demon Lord's men!
No! The rebels looked to me as I stood up, Diana following and still protecting me as I stared at the boys on the ground. They all looked dazed and a bit shell-shocked from having fallen twice in rapid succession. I almost couldn't believe it. There they were, right in front of me. My mind couldn't help but remember how I had first met them. They had all been on the floor of my mansion, unconscious and wounded. Now they were in front of me in the demon world. I know them! I stared at the one I was meant to marry, seeing him slowly shake his head and rise from the ground. They came to rescue me. He came to rescue me. My heart became overjoyed and full of warmth and happiness. I was going to go home. The question was, how?
That's enough for you, human! Aw, you gonna cry? Suck it up! See you in the full game!
Alright. Thank you so much for watching. We have completed Erik's route. Don't know how long it's taken, but I know that I need to rest my voice because it's going away. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye! Oh wait, before I go, we are going to be doing Sam's route next. Till next time!